I've got a question for you guys.
I'll be back. I'm gonna get a beverage.
Go for it.
Can a monster make an opportunity attack against an Eldritch Cannon, leaving its threat range?
This is a trick question, or are you just asking if we were listening earlier?
This came up last session, and then we had like a 30-minute long discussion about the various rules involved after the stream last week. And then I went down the rabbit hole on it. It's been kicked around Reddit. It's had all kinds of discussion. And so last week, I made the ruling on it. I thought my problem with this class feature was it's so good that if I don't rule that the little thing is easy to destroy by monsters, I'm going to have to be developing every combat to counteract this one class feature. I actually was turned out to misunderstand how many HPs it can give out, because it can never give more than 13. Because it's always a D8 plus your intelligence modifier. Your intelligence modifier can't go above a 5. So it's really good right now, like level 5, 6, 7. But I think it'll fall off eventually. Like it's not gonna. It's always gonna be good, but it's never gonna. I can design encounters where it's not on my radar, and the encounters will go fine. No,
Scrappy was the same way. At level 3, Scrappy was like having a extra goddamn fighter in the party almost.
Almost, yeah. Well, so okay, I got through that. I got over that part of it, but it's like the rules on it still bothered me, and I had to figure out why. And I decided that it was because I feel like the interaction between the Eldritch Cannon and the opportunity attack rules, I think Eldritch Cannon is just inelegantly designed. So, in D&D 5th edition, I think a rule is elegant if, like, a plain English reading on the rule tells you how to apply it to a game. I think that's a pretty good hallmark of an elegant rule. And a rule is elegant if, in applying that rule, you don't break anything in the fiction. So it has to be mechanically sound, it has to be clear to understand, and in following the rule, it shouldn't break anything in the fiction of the game. The example that Destil brought up last week, I kept coming back to. The example of a warlock who steps into a room and casts Eldritch Blast on all the statues in the room to see if one of them's a gargoyle. And I thought about it. Is that inelegant? Because that doesn't bother me. The way that this does. And I had to think really hard about why. And I think, like, in the fiction, every magic spell you cast has a target. I don't know how magic works in these worlds. The laws of physics haven't been published on the subject. But, like, I know that Forgotten Realms talks about magic working through, like, the weave that permeates all of space. And then I introduced something similar to that in Trennis, where you guys went to outer space and your magic was dampened because you'd left the world. I think in the fiction it kind of works. The spell fails unless there's something about the magic energy that knows what its target is. Is it an object or is it a creature? If it's a creature, the spell goes off. So, in that example, the warlock walks into a room, casts Eldritch Blast at the first statue, and I say it doesn't work, it's not a creature. Second time, doesn't work, not a creature. Third time, doesn't work, not a creature. Fourth time, roll initiative, it's a gargoyle. That doesn't break the mechanics, and it doesn't break the fiction. For me, at least. I also don't think it's a really good strategy. Like, at best, you just prevent, like, part of the party from being surprised. But this Eldritch Cannon kept bothering me. So, the situation last week was that Treble had summoned this little Eldritch Cannon that was giving everybody temp HP. It's a chess piece on spider legs that he's actually 3D modeled now in my Discord.
You want me to... You want to put the picture up?
If you want to post the picture in the Twitch chat, he's got like this little picture of this rook that skitters around on spider legs, and every round, it's a bonus action, right? And as a bonus action, he can move this chess piece some number of squares on the board. I think it's 15 feet, and then pulse temp HP to all party members, and it's a really good ability. But he moved the chess piece out of one of my monster's threat range, and I had the monster attack it. It's an opportunity attack. In D&D 5e, if you move away from a creature, into a square they cannot reach with their weapon, they're allowed to use their reaction to try to hit you one last time before you're like beyond their reach. Unless you specifically disengage. There's a specific action that can prevent that. Well, this little Eldritch Rook can't do that. But it was leaving my creature's threat range, and I really wanted to destroy it, so I had my monster attack it. And Treble's a good player. He didn't argue about it. He waited until after the session. I always have time for my players to bring rule stuff to me. He said, rules as written, you're not allowed to do that. Because the Eldritch Cannon is an object, not a creature. And the opportunity attack rules have a list of criteria you have to meet for the attack to happen, and one of them is that your target has to be a creature. And he's right. Rules as written, my guys should not be allowed to attack this little chess piece. But it breaks the fiction of the game to apply the rule that way. The scenario I kept coming back to, I think I shared it with you guys last week, is like an Artificer in the woods, injured, with one spell slot left, and all these slavering wolves come in around him. And he uses his last spell slot to get out his little chess piece that's skittering around. Well, the attack action, which wolves have, they can either bite or they can use their claw, specifically says you can target objects. A wolf is allowed to bite a chess piece. However, the opportunity attack rules say they can only bite it if it's a creature. So in the fiction, a wolf can bite a chess piece if it wants to, unless that chess piece is moving under its own power out of its threat range, and then it's not allowed to bite it. And so to me, that breaks the fiction. The wolf doesn't know what the rules are. The wolf doesn't really understand the difference between creature and object. The wolf knows that there's this little thing moving around on the ground and it wants to bite it. So that's the situation I kept coming back to in my head. Like, it just makes no sense to not be allowed to attack this chess piece. So here's what I think actually happened. Here's why I think this interaction is inelegant. I think when they wrote the opportunity attack rules in the player's handbook 6 years ago now, or whatever it is. It's been 6 years, right?
Sounds right.
Something like that. I think they wrote the opportunity attack rules with the understanding, like, creatures have movement. Creatures are what players are going to be attacking with weapons in combat. We have a clear idea at this point in the game's development what's a creature and what's an object. So it's okay to write the rule and just say creature. It's not an oversight. But 6 years on, they publish Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and they give the Artificer like a pet class, the little turret that it can move around. And they want to make it feel different than other pet classes. So they make the little turret an object and not a creature. But as far as I can tell, it's the only creature that has hit points and saving throws and an armor class and movement and has only combat application. It's a creature in every conceivable way except that it doesn't have the keyword creature in its description. So I think the way to fix the oversight, to keep the fiction of the game working and to keep it mechanically simple, is to say that players are allowed to make opportunity attacks against creatures or objects. The last thing that convinced me this was the way to go with the ruling, this has been I spent like 3 nights on this. This was a very deep rabbit hole. I went through a lot of Twitter threads where a lot of people were really wrong about a lot of rules. To make an opportunity attack, you're only allowed to target something that moves using its own movement or action to move or reaction to move. For example, you don't provoke an opportunity attack if an explosion hurls you out of a foe's reach or if gravity causes you to fall past an enemy. So, okay. Is the Artificer moving the Rook, or is the Rook moving? Was like the last piece of the puzzle for me to feel good about ruling this in a specific way. But Eldritch Cannon says, as part of the same bonus action, which is the bonus action that Treble would use on his turn to give everybody temp HP or to make the thing blow fire out of its butt or whatever it can do. As part of the same bonus action, you can direct the cannon to walk or climb up to 15 feet, to an unoccupied space, provided it has legs. There's no way to read that sentence and not come to the conclusion that this thing has its own movement and is using its own movement to move under the Artificer's direction. That's what cinched it for me. I think that's a fair ruling, and I no longer care what Reddit has to say on the issue.
You're free.
This is the most interesting rules quandary I puzzled over in 5th edition to date. And I think it's just an oversight in, like, whoever wrote the rules for this class feature in Tasha's, maybe they didn't have a full comprehension of what object versus creature meant up to this point. Maybe they didn't realize that by giving this one object in the game movement and hit points and AC and saving throws and everything else the creatures have.
No, I don't buy that, because I would buy that if it was still, we were talking about the Everon version of the class, but they've had a chance to rewrite the whole class. So this is obviously intentional.
Yeah, they did actually change some wording. They did change some wording going to the 2 versions, didn't they?
Yeah.
They sure, because Destil Defender.
Yeah, the Destil Defender's proficiency bonus works differently now.
And they changed it to where the still, like, pets like the Still Defender, so not the turrets. The turrets don't do anything unless I use my bonus action. They just stand there. But, like, the Still Defender, if Alex would have ever went down, Scrappy could have kept fighting.
Right, the Eldritch Cannon can't, because there's nobody to give it an action. Like, you can't even dodge the way that...
Nope.
Yeah.
It has no actions. It is an object that I am activating.
That might be what they wanted then. That might be the reason, is they wanted it to not... They didn't have to want to worry about whether it had actions if you're unconscious or whatever.
Well, but I feel like they could just rule a little differently then. Like, they could put in a line saying, if you don't give it an action, here's what it does. It does nothing. Or it automatically dodges. Or it skitters onto your body and does a little dance or something.
But, like, one thing that, like... Again, this, by the way, does not change anything against the ruling you have, but I will point out that objects in 5th edition do, in fact, have ACs.
Yes, objects, like walls and doors especially, almost always in printed material have AC and HP. The reason it bothers me with this class feature is we have a keyword that describes objects that have stat blocks. They're constructs. Mm-hmm. It's a type of creature...
Magical.
Literally in the next build down.
Yeah, that's not really alive. It's a machine that lives, or it's an object that's animated by magic. An animated broom is a creature, not an object, because it has its stat block. And the stat block is, well, what's a stat block? It's a collection of stats the thing has: AC, HP, saving throws, movement, actions, all of which this little rook creature has. The only difference is it has to be controlled using your action. But that's also true of, like, a ranger's pet, or a summoned elemental, or lots of creatures that can enter the game under your control. So that's what I mean about the rule being inelegant. I feel like they introduced this concept that already worked in the mechanics and the fiction, but they designed a new way for it to work. Which is what 2nd and 3rd edition used to do all the time. So I'm going to burn my copy of Tasha's, and we're never going to speak about it again. I look forward to destroying many of your little rook creatures.
I guess. I mean, it's fine. Like, in universe, like the knights, the rooks, and the bishops, I just stole them from Evie's, all of her chess sets.
Evie's going to have to get more chess sets.
And I'll just steal more. So I just got like a satchel. They're just in my Tinker's Tools.
We're just going to become the house of chess pieces and just manufacture chess pieces.
Mechanically, I always want to make rulings like this in favor of class features, because class features are what make your characters work. Every D&D horror story out there is about some DM ruling that your class feature doesn't work the way you thought it was going to, which irritates players. But at the same time, like, I can't run a game where the rules don't make sense in the fiction. My brain hurts when that happens. That's why I have I'm very like strict on like stealth rules and things. Like, it doesn't make sense in the fiction that my orc can watch you walk behind a tree and, oh, where'd he go? I have no idea where that guy is now.
Where do you feel on racial features? Because there's a race of halflings that can do that.
No, there's a race of halflings that they can try to hide.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
This has come up in discussion before. But no, mostly racial features are fine. There's a lot of dumb ones, but... And then Tasha's has a whole chapter on if you don't want to be a race, just pick whatever racial features you want your character to have. And then you're just like a weird mishmash person.
Be a dwelf.
Be a dwelf.
Dwelf is, like, listen. I hope that they one day publish the dwelf, because it's my favorite, like, just stupid, like, random D&D race, because it's like a half dwarf, half elf, and then they just look like a guy. Like, they just, like, yes, it combines the worst attributes of both races, and it's just a human.
You know what? The mishmash racial lineages are what they're called, in Tasha's are actually a really good example of an elegant solution to a design problem they were having. Because D&D has fantasy races, and the fantasy races are different. And there are some players that are like, we don't want races in the game at all. This is like an outdated concept. Like, we think the game is worse for having these races, and certain races have to be certain alignments or have certain kind of stats. So they published rules that let players in a table that wants to use them, you can design a character to have whatever racial features you want, so you don't have to ignore that aspect of the game. And they're not called races anymore. And they're not compulsory rules. So my table can do it one way, and your table can do it another way. It's really elegant. The rules are probably balanced fine.
They actually improved balance, because the optimization perspective on this was, until these rules came out, there was no reason to play anything except a variant human. Like, and the new rules, like, if you want to play an elf, you can play an elf and they'll be just as good as a human.
Well, there was no...
Variant human was always the best.
No mechanical reason from an optimization standpoint.
Exactly.
But, I mean...
they improved balance.
I've played a lot of variant humans in my day.
Yeah, variant human is the best, because you can always get the plus your most important ability score, and a feat is amazing.
And I understand that perspective. As a player, I always try to build a character based on a concept. I'm not an optimizer when I'm a player, typically. But I understand that would chafe some people. Like, I want to play an elf because I think elves are cool, but if I do, I don't get this obviously really good thing. Yeah. I personally don't chafe against that, but I totally understand why some people would. That said, I will probably never run a game where I use these Tasha's rules. Because I like races. Except for dwelfs. Dwelfs are the worst.
That's their whole thing, yes.
Half dwelfs are okay.
I feel like we need to get some Warhammer in here with some squats.
That was actually the last MMORPG I played, was Warhammer Online. We played it for about 6 months.
I'm sad that game went away.
It was inevitable.
I know.
That was like a lifetime ago.
Yeah. Any MMO during that time that decided it wanted to just out World of Warcraft was just doomed for failure.
The other thing I did this week for D&D is I cataloged all of my monsters from all of my books into a spreadsheet. So I should have much better monster options now, because I can just look at my spreadsheet. I can sort by Tome of Beasts if I only want to use Tome of Beasts stuff. Then Treble was making fun of me on Discord, like, well, at least you don't have Tome of Beasts too. So I took a picture of my screen and showed it to my wife and said, I want this book for Christmas. She's like, cool. And then I watched her order it. So y'all can thank Treble for that.
Thanks, Treble.
Thanks, Treble.
Good job, Treble.
I love you, Treble.
I'm just gonna start calling you Trouble.
So
That's how it's pronounced.
So when I was I've been playing Final Fantasy XIV's new expansion this week, and have one person in our guild basically who their reputation as a healer is spotty at best, but they're trying. And every single time that I was having trouble being healed as a tank and getting killed, I was saying Treble, and then I had to correct myself to this person's actual name. I'm like,
Wait, are they?
I don't.
Did they not play Variant Human?
They didn't play Variant Human. No, they're playing Potato.
Variant Human is definitely the best healer.
Speaking of just random things that chafe me, like I have very little experience with 14. I played it the original beta before they remade the entire game. That's the only time I played it. It bothered the absolute hell out of me that they kept all the Final Fantasy 11 races and just called them different things. That bugged me so much as somebody who played 1,000 hours of Final Fantasy 11 back in the day.
I don't know if that bothers me or not.
Oh my god, it bothered me again when I played Final Fantasy 11 a couple of years ago.
I guess the main reason it would bother me is they also use human in the Ivalice games, right? So why would they rename? But wait, did they not rename humans?
Their humans are here in.
Here. Okay, yeah, no, it bothers me. I don't get it. Like they already had two names for humans.
They're weird donkey people.
So there's a thing about that, and it gets into somewhat spoilery territory, so I'm not going to go too deep into that.
Nope, that's... I like to peek down the rabbit hole and see McDohl like way down there just waving at me with a pickaxe in the other hand, digging deeper into the rabbit hole.
Yeah, no, I mean... you have no idea where I've like got my character that I'm just kind of wiggling the control stick on. Like, there are rabbits down here, and I'm...
Well,
looking at them.
Does your Mister also play MMOs? Does he play 14?
He does.
With you? So that's why you guys are... Because I'll tell you what, my wife tried to play World of Warcraft. She had about a year, and then she was just out of gas. She was like, nope, this is not a part of our lives anymore. And I'm like, yes, ma'am, uninstall. That's how it went.
That's fine.
Yes.
I'm still waiting for them to put out like a single-player campaign covering all the big story points of Final Fantasy XI. That'd be a fantastic game.
That would be a fantastic game.
That would be an amazing game.
Maybe that'll be Final Fantasy 17.
I expect 17 will be the next MMO.
You know what's really funny is they're doing that for Dragon Quest X.
Yeah,
I've heard that.
I haven't played a Dragon Quest since 8.
Well, like Dragon Quest X is their MMO.
I thought 9 was their MMO.
No.
9 is it's a single player game with weird, like asynchronous multiplayer. But no, it's MMO. It's just a straight up MMO. Like you go through like a single player introduction, like a bit where you're a human, you die, and then you reincarnate as your actual character. And that's the story of the game. And like, so you get to be a dwarf or an elf or whatever, and they look like weird Dragon Ball characters.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, I think I'll pass.
But
just on Dragon Quest in general.
But I mean, it's weird because they're doing that for Dragon Quest 11 and 10. Dragon Quest 11 is a fine game.
Sucks about me as a person that bothers everybody that knows me.
Do you want us? Okay, be very careful. Answer this very careful. Do you want us to truthfully answer this question, or is it rhetorical?
I have no interest in playing Dragon Quest because it's like just way too Japanese for my tastes. But I'm 120 hours deep in Persona 5, and it's fine. And in my head, this is a perfectly consistent opinion to hold. Like, this does not cause me any discordance at all.
But, Monsieur Brickroad, do you not want the puff?
They're pretty different.
Not from you.
Well, bitch, you ain't getting it like that, then.
That's part of what bothers me about the Dragon Quest now, is that kind of content. Like, I'm over it.
That's completely fair.
Yeah, it was cute at one point, and it's like they keep doing it. It's not. Didn't they get the memo? Like,
they haven't really changed anything. Like Dragon Quest, I guess one of the strengths of Dragon Quest is that it's pretty static, especially compared to like Final Fantasy, where they just drastically change everything.
I mean, the best character in Dragon Quest XI is a woman, and therefore she gets a ridiculous puff-based skill tree that makes no sense for her character.
Jeez.
Yeah.
But look like the Honeybee Inn from Final Fantasy VII. That was cute back in the 90s. You couldn't put it in a game today, and they
They did
realized
put it in
that.
the game today.
Right, but when
They
they
did
put it in
put it in the game
remake,
today.
it's not just the honeybee inn like it was back
Yeah.
in. It was this big, like flamboyant, like really positive energy spectacle that fits for modern sensibilities.
Yeah, it's not a
Yeah.
brothel.
It's not.
probably
It probably still is, but it's not literally a brothel.
Right, it's not like just a brothel you
You-
go to get like makeup put on you.
You could like hand a guy a few gil under the table. But they don't explore that aspect of it in the game.
Right.
That's one of my favorite parts of remake. Honestly, that was so much fun.
It was good.
Uh,
Like, I was really worried about that, and they did it. They somehow pulled it off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was,
I haven't actually played FF7 Remake. I kind of don't want to like do anything with it until like it comes out on PC because I'm not buying a PlayStation 5 for it.
I'm not going to be able to find a PlayStation 5.
yeah, you can't buy a PlayStation 5 anyway, so don't worry
I
about it.
haven't played Interlude, even though I downloaded it. It's only supposed to be like 4 hours. I just haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah, I'm gonna be bummed if it's only 4 hours long because first of
No,
all,
Interlude, not the. Oh, yeah.
yeah, because that's the one with Yuffie, yeah.
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 I bet if you get really into the Fort Condor or MOBA, it's probably much longer, but
We'll see. All right, who has a 100-word summary of all the trouble you guys got into last week without bringing up the Protector Rook? That's behind us now.
We're being stalked by a shellfish.
Yeah,
I
I
gotta
gotta get
do
a
it.
restraining order.
I got into trouble twice with a crowbar. The second time, I was chastised the first time and then asked to do it the second time. So again, mixed messages.
What's up with that?
It seemed like a good idea at the second
Seems
time.
I'm having that
I
problem
think
in
you're
our
I
Saturday
think you're
game.
selectively interpreting the event or the series of events so that it looks most favorable upon you, which honestly is a very genie thing to do.
I don't know. I sympathize. In our Saturday game, I'm playing a barbarian, and I kick down a door, and everybody's like, "You shouldn't have kicked down that door." Now we're fighting these guys. 2 scenes later, they're like, "Hey, there's guys on the other side. Gary, kick down this door."
Is your barbarian named Gary?
Yeah.
that seems like an appropriate barbarian name to me.
What's
I
wrong?
think the answer to that question is just as long as people know we're about to get into a fight, that changes the dynamic quite a bit.
Not to Gary.
Yeah.
He's chaotic. It's the only
Fill with an
consistent
F.
thing about his character. He sees a door, he wants to kick it. That's it.
The other thing that happened is Orson is absolutely in debt to some kind of shady figure, but we have no idea who, and he won't tell us. So there's no way that's going to backfire when we go back to town.
We'll just pay his debt off. I mean, we owe him. He's the only one last session that hit anything. Okay, real talk.
Very true.
The only reason, like, I know you said don't bring up the protector turret, but the only reason that was a problem for you was because we couldn't hit anything to finish the frickin' encounters.
I mean,
And they went on for like 3 times longer than they probably should have.
those weren't even Tome of Beast monsters. Those were just like
No, those were just crappy rolls.
That was just bad dice rolls. That was just a lot of really bad dice rolls last week.
Well, that just means that this week our dice rolls are going to be great.
yeah,
No, it doesn't.
Jinx us.
It doesn't. It does not mean.
Solitayre, why do you say harmful things?
No, this is just the law of averages.
Solitayre.
Yeah, these weren't even particularly beefy monsters. We're AC 16. Y'all can't hit a 16.
No, no, we can't.
No, we
We couldn't
can't.
hit a 10.
We
That's higher than my
have,
AC.
we have empirically gathered data to show that we cannot, in fact, hit an AC 16.
Like our distribution curve is like skewed to the left.
It's all on the left. There's nothing on the right.
We need to get like a statistician in here. You think it'd be better with like, you know what? McDohl's not here, and we've all inherited his hag curse. It's just like it's
It
spread.
is true. It's spread to us.
Oh
yeah.
no! He was
It's
keeping
just-
it contained.
It's like he was taking one for the team.
All right.
Anyway, we got a lot of good stuff too that I have.
Cataloged.
So you guys carefully and thoroughly explore the rest of this dungeon. And there's a collapsed area down this hallway. And you come in on the other side of this room where there's a very large and collapsed area, but nothing attacks you and you don't find any treasure in these rooms. And then on the other side, same deal, except it started out underwater. So unless you guys think of some way to complicate your life, you have no difficulty going through the rest of the dungeon before your spell wears out and making it back to the rendezvous point with your boat in time. So unless you actually want to hunt down your crustacean friend and play with him some more.
Nope. I do
The
want
only problem I have with that is that for the rest of the campaign, Bricker is going to roll initiative for this guy just to see if he shows up. This will be like the final session of the campaign. Like the egg crab is finally going to return for revenge.
swoops in at the last moment to save us. Just
You're forgetting the most important part. It was actually a baby Trask.
Actually, this is a pretty annoying monster. I was going to say that you guys could wipe the floor with it, and you probably can, but it's pretty annoying.
You think?
I don't know. I'm not the one that has to fight it, so
we don't have to fight it either.
it's true. You don't.
I'd say live and let live. I mean, we bothered the crab. The crab was just sitting there, and then Genie tried to kill it with a crowbar. I don't blame it for not liking us, to be perfectly honest.
I didn't try to kill it with a crowbar. I was trying to. I thought it was an egg, and I was gonna smash it.
That would be killing it.
Yeah, that's.
And then you stole its potential babies.
That's how killing works.
I mean, okay. Listen, like, if I thought it was an egg, right? Eggs are not people, right?
That they could be. They could be polymorph people.
I mean, we're gonna have to look in the book and see if we can find a description of an egg that says it's an object with HP and AC and saving throws and movement speed.
Right.
So, do you guys have anything else you want to play with in this dungeon?
The only thing that I do want to remind everybody is that we're carrying those planks back.
Yes, the woods.
Yeah, we
this
have the eggs too.
Yes, I have the eggs. The eggs are in the.
Why
Yeah,
are we
just-
taking the? Why are we taking the eggs? Can you explain that?
See
Find out
what
what
they
they
are.
are.
Because we're treasure hunters and they might be worth something.
I see no
alchemy.
possible positive outcomes from stealing this creature's eggs.
Omelets.
I'm not eating that.
They might just be stones. We don't know. That's why we gotta look at them.
Okay. Evie is going to give you the affidavit for... Evie told me that taking these eggs was a bad idea.
Do you just carry those around in like a notepad? You just tear one
yeah.
off?
She's going to give one to Orson, too, for, you know... Evie tried to help me figure out who I owed this...
How are you
guy
getting
first.
these notarized down in this dungeon?
Evie's already a notary. She's been a notary since she
You
was...
can't
13.
notarize your own document. Documents have to be notarized by an accredited third party.
Victor
And Mr.
notarized
Third
them.
Party was in the last campaign.
He's back.
I think the only thing that might be worth note is, I guess, as we leave, Victor will try and get any information he can out of Orson with regards to how he got these scrolls in the first place, and tell him he did a good job getting them. They came in handy.
He accepts the compliment, but he's definitely not going to reveal any more information while you guys are still down in the dungeon.
Yeah, there's no way that's going to go back. Before we surface, Evie's going to look through the eyes of a familiar and make sure that's not, like, Shadow over Innsmouth up there, like the sea people aren't invading.
Not that I know of. Looks like the lake. Nice, calm, clear day.
And everything looks kosher.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, then we can
Guess
go up.
Go up and signal the fisherman.
Well, I think we're probably just going to have to wait for them unless we could go... If someone wants to swim out to go find them.
The eggs are
No, I
already
think
on
that's
the
also a
sheet.
bad idea.
Yeah, the idea was that they were going to come back after, like that evening, with their boat.
So, question. Because is there a... So, question I have is, well, this is for the party. Are we going to go hunt down these bandits that stole our horses?
If we find them, I would like to.
So we got a couple things we could do. I guess we can hunt down the bandits. We could also go to the treasure map that I found from the dragon dude.
That's a long way, though. And we don't have horses right now.
Well, we have to get back to town to get horses first before we do that. Yeah.
You could
And we-
purchase
we-
horses in the village. There are ranches out in the surrounding areas of the village where you could purchase horses from.
Yeah, so I think we're going to have to get horses in this town. The people in this town would like for us to leave, so I think the sooner we leave, the better.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We could try and get revenge on Bandit Dude. That may or may not ultimately end up pissing off the townsfolk.
Well, you had put out like an APB on the Bandit.
Didn't we offer a reward?
You did. Yes. You put a reward. You sent a rider to Lord Willabrod in his keep some days away. So any information about this guy's whereabouts will reach your ears in Brennanine.
So I think that's all we can do. So I think at this point we should probably just go back to town. We can report our findings to the Unseelie artifact.
Victor, there's something I was thinking about. Just a gnawing feeling in the back of my head.
Uh-oh.
So this guy's MO was to lure adventurers into his dungeon and then kill them, right? Am I remembering this right?
His MO was to rob them. The idea was he'd get low-level adventurers down there, leave your stuff, and you can go in peace. And you guys did neither.
Should we go block the dungeon so they can't get back into it?
Well, I'm just thinking, was he working with someone to get the information out? Did someone at your guild sell you out?
Ooh. That's a good point.
An interesting question.
Yeah. How many people have been sent here from your guild before?
I think this is something we should probably find out.
You actually know the answer to that. None in many years.
Okay.
Explicitly from the guild. The reason that they sent you guys out was they had reports of locals having information. It was actually probably the other way around, in other words. Like, Keithan probably put out the feelers that, hey, there's new magic to be found here, which got to these locals, and then it got back to Brennanine.
Which would make sense.
Because these ruins have been explored and picked over long ago.
We have repicked over them and acquired the treasures of poor adventurers.
I'll let the party make a history check as you come back to the village with more knowledge of what you found in the lake ruins. So I'll let one person make it at advantage.
I've got a 5.
Can you throw guidance on that?
You sure can.
I have a +2 to history. I'm not sure what other people have.
Anybody beat 5 going once, going twice?
Nope, I got a 19. I got a 19.
Are we all rolling?
No,
I thought he meant he had a +5 bonus.
Oh, no, I don't have a +5 bonus.
Yeah, I just have a +2 bonus and a 10 intelligence.
I rolled a 19, though.
Well, here, add a d4 to it. And then roll at advantage.
That's 1, so it's 20. I'll roll at advantage. Maybe I'll get a 20. Who knows? That's not 20, but my total was 20.
It's never going to be possible to know for sure what the story was at this ruin. It's just too old. Even the creatures that you fought down there, the undead knights, too far gone. Their identifying features don't betray much. But the fact that they were decked out in wood steel and dark iron harkened back to a time even before the Ferniscan conquests. Like, even before the Republic was founded, which was like 1,200 years ago or so. And just putting together some local legends from the town and what you've discovered, you think you're the first people that were in that underwater portion of the ruin since those men had gone down there. And based on the way that they were equipped and what they were equipped with, you think they were perhaps red shell hunters. They were hunting these monsters down in the cave, and then it partially collapsed on top of them. So anybody from the guilds or any other adventurers who have explored these ruins only explored the top part. So you do have an exciting report to give when you get back.
And there was magic down there that was still active after 1,000 years.
That's part of why you speculate how old they were, because when you use grand magic the way that they've done, like, no single spell is enough to create an air bubble like the one you encountered. That's some pretty hefty magic. You you'd need to send somebody down who really knows what they're doing to weave some magic through the stones over a period of time. And the problem is when you leave that alone for hundreds and hundreds of years, it can get corrosive and it can take on other properties, which is exactly what you experience. You disturbed magic that had been sitting there for over a millennia easily.
Yeah, and I think to Evie that's scary. Like magic that old.
So these red shell hunters controlled this magic, thought they were going to go down and make a killing against these creatures, put this air bubble in place. Something went wrong. Half of them, or part of their contingent, left for some reason, leaving the others with orders to hold down the fort until they return, and then they never did. As far as you know, that's the most complete history anybody's ever going to have on the subject of Lake Rexronto.
Evie will write all that down to give to Victor and Orson to make their report.
And you got no small amount of treasure from it.
I mean, I think we're still technically in the red. Or is it? I forget. Red's negative. Black's good, right?
Black is good.
Yep.
Red is bad.
Okay, right. We're still in the red, I think. I think instead of everybody buying horses, we should buy like a donkey and a cart.
That's not very fast.
That's okay. You're not in a super big rush to get back, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that's
Also-
reasonable to get back to town.
Like also, people who had their horses stolen don't get a say.
I had way more than my horse stole.
We're not going to talk about that.
We're just going to say that our horses were killed by bandits when we were attacked on the road.
I mean, we'll say that we found bandits and yeah.
We're not going to admit that our horses got stolen because we didn't leave anyone to watch them. They died.
I think we did leave someone to watch. They just didn't do anything. Wasn't
No, we didn't.
No,
No,
nobody
wasn't
was left.
Ekon's attendant there the whole time?
No, she's
No.
back in the village.
Nobody
She
took
just
their
scouted
attendance
the
with
place
them.
for us.
Yeah.
Not for nothing, but I took all your equipment away and now you don't have anything is literally the first thing I told my players in the very first Flumph campaign.
Yeah, no, he did that. That's very true.
I love taking equipment away from players.
Of course you do.
It's all-
T-buckets are suitable material components for some spells.
We did rule that, yeah, you could use the urine bucket in your cell. So, what was it? Armor of Agathis or something.
Yeah, which
Armor
requires
bag of this,
water.
yeah. Pea water, yeah.
Yeah.
See, it's a ruling that doesn't break the fiction. Pee is mostly water. It's fine.
Oh, that's not hygienic.
He didn't drink it. He magicked it.
He magicked it into armor that he wore.
Well, technically, he magicked the water in the urea. Like, maybe when that happens, the ammonia just is released as a gas.
Rick Road, he was wearing pea ice.
It's fine. It was a long time ago. We never needed to bring it up. Never need to again.
My games are awesome. So, you're buying a donkey and a cart?
Yes.
Are we naming the donkey?
No. Well, his name is Donkey.
And is he voiced by Eddie Murphy?
No, we can't afford Eddie Murphy.
What can I do as the DM to characterize this donkey so it hurts more when I kill it later?
Nothing.
He
because
has cute eyes.
Evie has no feelings for animals. Not Evie. Jeannie has no feelings for animals. I don't know about Evie.
I know why I mixed the twins up. I don't know why you do. You're playing one of them.
So we've got a nice haul, I believe, that we should offer to give Orson what he needs to pay off whoever he owes.
Yeah.
Anyone object to that?
Is very pleased with the amount of treasure you found.
Okay, so we say Orson.
Wait, did Orson lose a horse too?
Yeah, you all rode out to that cave and tied your horses
Okay.
up outside.
So I'd like to point out that like I actually didn't take the horse when you gave us the option at level 1, so I didn't have a horse to steal.
Oh, I assumed you guys all... I think we decided we all bought horses when you left Brennanine.
Oh, okay. Well,
Because
that's fine.
they had stated that they rode out to the village, so... Not that 5 of them rode out and then Victor walked and arrived 3 weeks later.
Well, anyway, I would like for us to give... Because Orson was the one who put up the money to get these scrolls, I think it's fair to reimburse him out of our take before we split the treasure.
Orson
need to find
considers
out
that to be very fair.
How much should Orson spend on these scrolls?
Yeah, that's what I need to know now. How much do we need to give you to square whoever you owe this to?
So you guys want to divvy up the treasure before you make it back to Brennan? Is that correct?
No, we just want to get Orson his share first.
Yeah.
We want to cover the expenses first.
Yeah.
Water breathing is what, a second level spell?
Yes.
And spell scrolls are typically 25 to 50 gold pieces per level.
There's actually a chart for that. I can tell you exactly how much a second level spell. This is relevant to my interests.
Water breathing doesn't have any expensive material components.
It is 250 gold pieces.
So figure that, add 10% for the wizard's labor. That would probably come out to about what he would need. And you still have one water breathing scroll you haven't used, which he would entrust into your care.
Okay.
With the assumption that he'll be invited onto future adventures because he did such a good job on this one. That's the other thing I was supposed to do before we started streaming today. God damn it.
What class is Orson?
I talked so much about this idiotic rook that I hate, and the player that's using it, who I also hate. So, in Tasha's, and I apologize to viewers because this is the kind of stuff we usually do before the stream. This isn't interesting to anybody. Tasha's, again, has very elegant rules for this exact situation. It has a whole chapter about sidekicks. Sidekicks are basically very simplified character classes. There's 3 different classes. There's the expert, which is like a skill monkey kind of class. They end up with stuff like cunning action and expertise. They get bonus proficiencies. They don't get sneak attack, but they do eventually get the coordinated strike, which is what Evie uses to do a help action from 30 feet away. So that's the first option. The second option is a spellcaster. They get spellcasting abilities. You pick one of either wizard spell list, cleric and druid spell list, or bard and warlock spell lists, and then he could be a spellcaster of that class. The third option is a warrior, which is basically just a fighter. It gets stuff like improved defense, indomitable, second wind, improved critical, that kind of stuff. So, here's the ruling if you guys are going to keep traveling with Orson. I'm willing to give your adventuring party one sidekick like this. You can take as many hirelings and attendants and retainers and familiars and rook spiders into the dungeon as you want, but your sidekick will be the only character who will have an actual stat block that you would control during the fight. So let's make the decision. Which of these 3 sidekick classes do you think would be appropriate for Orson to take?
Orson wants to be like his daddy, right?
Orson isn't making this decision. This is a decision that the players need to make.
I mean, I personally like the idea of having the Adept. Is that the spellcaster?
It's just called spellcaster.
Oh, it's just called spellcaster.
Yep, I also like
I feel like that, like, A, going out and finding these scrolls is kind of along those lines, and B, like, there's a lot of adventuring magic that, like, I would have suggested he just progresses noble if he was, like, getting a class, so I think that would also represent sort of the house spellcasting a little bit.
I feel like a spellcast would also be more useful than the other 2, given our
I feel like that's not his personality, though.
I mean,
he's your sidekick. He takes on the personality of your adventuring group. That's kind of the point of that.
He's enthusiastic, but I don't think there's too much else to find about him.
So, is he going to be a mage, a healer, or a prodigy? I don't think he should be a healer.
So the difference
I think he should be a prodigy.
The mage takes their spells from the wizard spell list and their casting abilities intelligence. The healer takes the cleric and druid spell list and their casting ability is wisdom. The prodigy takes bard and warlock spell list and their casting ability is charisma. And I love the artwork on this next page of, like, just this little goblin holding a magic wand wearing a ball gown.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So which one do you think is which, right? Like, do you think that goblin, do you think he's a healer?
I think it's a goblin. I also think it's definitely a boy goblin, yes.
That is a boy goblin,
like 100%.
He is fabulous.
Yeah, I think my vote is for prodigy spellcaster, but
let's finalize this decision. You can think about it through the session, and we'll talk about it a little more. But I'm going to give him sidekick levels. So his level is always going to be one level lower than the lowest level person in the adventuring party, which right now he would be level 3 because y'all have made it to 4. And then once the lowest person levels up, he'll level up to his new level. Unless he dies, in which case you have a job opening.
Other problems.
Oh, actually, how does death rules work for a psychic? If he hits 0, does he just die?
No, he makes death saves.
Okay.
These classes are specifically meant for like hanger-on characters for a party, which is what Orson is, or as an alternative for a player who doesn't want to play a full class because they're simplified. I guess the balance idea is that they're just as useful in a party as a fully classed character of the same level, but they have fewer things to keep track of.
They have like a more breadth of abilities because you're drawing from 2 spell lists in the case of spellcasters.
Yeah, but they don't get all the class features.
Right, and like the
They have
warrior,
class features.
the warrior gets like a smattering of fighter abilities from different fighter subclasses.
No,
Like,
idea.
when I think of what this party needs, I kind of feel like we could use another frontliner as opposed to another caster.
Yeah, I mean, he's good with the dagger and a shield, so that's fine with me. Like, again, my opinion is spellcaster makes most sense, but if you think you should be a dagger fighter or even pick up a melee weapon or a racial, like a martial weapon, I think that's cool.
The only other requirement for a spellcaster is they have to be able to speak a language, and Orson kind of does. So,
Kinda does. Warrior sidekicks, they get, he would get all, he gains all armor proficiency, and it gains he would get shield and all simple and martial weapons. So he'd be able to use anything.
So I would rule that his stat block would just be the sidekick stat block, and then on top of that, he would get access to your house spellcasting and like the level 1 noble temp HP feature, like you all have already been using. We can finalize that after the session, though. But yeah, that was on my list of notes to bring up. I had 2 things I needed to discuss.
You went too deep down the rabbit hole.
I was way down that rabbit hole, dude.
You had to dig yourself out first, man.
Can we make him a token?
No, he's going to be a yellow token. Because he's a sidekick and not a character. Listen, man, it takes like 10 minutes for me to make one of these little tokens and import it. I'm not going to do one for a person that doesn't exist.
Scrappy got a token.
I didn't. And
we loved Scrappy more than we love Orson.
Evie loves Orson very much.
Not as much.
You
as
don't understand how much we love Scrappy.
Like now that Orson has kind of come into his own, he's like, he handled himself well down there. So Evie has been like looking over his shoulder the whole time to make sure he didn't die. But I feel like she doesn't feel like she needs to do that anymore. So she like, you know, they like share a moment where she nods to him. And actually, I would like to take him aside and have a brief conversation with him. Is that okay with everyone?
Well,
yeah.
This is like the 9th or 10th like aside conversation that people have had with Orson. It's to the point like he doesn't understand why he's being singled out as the kid when he's the same age as Ekon is.
I'm not singling him out as a kid anymore. This is her Evie like
Ekon
having the moment.
Ekon can summon holy fire from the sky.
Like, you know,
also, reprimand in private, praise in public.
I'm not reprimanding him.
I know that's the philosophy, though. Is you reprimand in private, you praise in public. So whatever you can say, if you have something positive to say, you should say it in front of the rest of us.
This is a private conversation between her and Orson, and she's like, "Orson, I'm really proud of you. You handled yourself great down there, and I want you to know." The reason I've been so worried about you isn't because I think that you can't handle yourself. It's just, we already lost a brother this way, and I just couldn't bear the thought of that happening again. So before our brother went away on his expedition, he gave me this knife, and she shows him Rabbit Killer, and I think he wanted me to protect the family while he was gone. And for a number of years, I've been trying to do that the best I can. And there's something that I need you to do. and she's the dagger that she gave him. She's gonna say, "I want you to keep that dagger, and if I'm ever not around anymore, and because Evie knows that her time with the family is coming to an end." So there's a lot of emotion behind this statement. It's not a hypothetical statement saying, "Orson, if I'm not around anymore, I need you to take care of everyone for me. Can you do that?"
And he accepts the dagger and agrees to take care of everybody. He doesn't understand the rest of what you're talking about.
It's okay. He'll understand when he gets older.
Orson, if I'm not around, I want you to eat this entire dagger.
But yeah, like her older brother gave her a dagger, so now she's continuing the tradition and giving a dagger to Orson. That's like her. To her, that's a meaningful event, even if it doesn't mean that much to Orson right now. Someday it might.
Who's older, Evie or Jeannie?
I think Evie is slightly older.
So Evie's like half an hour older than I am.
So no, that the tradition holds because Nathaniel's dagger came to Evie, skipped over Lugrin because he's useless. Then it skipped over Jeannie and went to Orson because Jeannie's also useless.
This is absolutely Orson. I think something he should take away is this is not a conversation that Evie has had with Lugrin or Jeannie. This is something she's entrusting to him.
Listen, Jeannie is the rock of this family.
She's the sandstone of this family.
I'm the rock, the rock of this family that the ship will probably crash into, but I'm still the rock.
The Rock crashed a ship in that Jungle Cruise movie.
All right, so we're getting 2 mules and a cart. Am I remembering? Do we need 1 mule to pull a cart?
You can have 1 mule pull a cart.
X mules and Y carts.
I mean, you're not loading this cart up with enormous amounts of cargo. It's
basically for us.
A few thousand coins and a pallet.
But we are a banker of Boston, right? From Boston, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So we're not going to get our horses now. We're going to roll back into Brennanine on a frickin' cart pulled by donkeys.
It's the cheapest way, yes.
All right.
He'll get his.
And it's undertake that 8 or 9 day journey back to Brennanine. I don't have dice. I should get those.
What do you need?
So, like, do we have like the 8 or 9 day journey? Can I like teach? Like we can teach others to use weapons we know how to use, right?
Sure.
Does anybody want to train with a crossbow, light crossbow?
Yeah, Victor will.
I think all the relevant rules for that are in Xanathar's for learning new skills and things, and I apply those to proficiencies and tools and things as well.